Good evening, friends. Welcome to this edition of Thursday's Mystery Wine Blind Tasting. Our last one before we head off to our Christmas and holiday break. I'm coming to you from Chicago, where I'm visiting with some family for a quick trip. Hopefully, the connection's working for you, and I'm in a hotel room with no otherwise lighting other than this lamp light, so thus the blacked out background. But if you're joining us, please let us know by chiming in. We have a fun little white wine a fun little red wine this evening. A lighter bodied red with a particular aromatic signature that is taking me down one singular track toward a varietal and maybe a place. Um, but we'll work through it and get ourselves to a more succinct and concrete understanding of the wine as opposed to just the first initial impression. But as you're chiming in, let me know. Or as you're joining in, chime in and let me know that you're here. There's a little signature to this wine. Um, right when I poured it, I opened it a moment ago, poured a touch, and there's an aromatic quality about this wine that suggests what I think this might be. And I'm curious to know what you think it is too. There's an element, an herbaceousness that's on this wine that's not found in my mind in many other wines. And so I think that is what's telling me about where to go with this particular wine. So let's begin. For those of you that are there, if you are commenting, I'm not yet receiving them, apologies. But from the visual standpoint of this wine, I'm picking up a lighter red profile. There's a rubyish element to it. It's got a fairly light rim. It's pretty much see-through. Trish, Andy, and Kathy, good evening. How are you? Leslie and Jan, hi. It's wonderful to see you with us as well. Rob and Kathy, you're joining us too. Great. And Ariel and Matt, hey guys. How are you guys tonight? Coming in from DC. From DC to Chicago and points in between. What are you seeing in this wine? All of you, I hope, have it in your glass at this point. Get that ruby cast. There's a lightness around the rim, but not a lot of variation. So I think it's relatively youthful. Mark, are you saying my video is a little hoppy? I apologize for that. Um, Anne and John, hello, good evening. It's wonderful to have you with us again. Light tobacco on the nose, Jan. Thank you. I like that. There's some fruit notes here as we get to the aroma. We'll dive into this a bit more, but there are more layers of flavor, of aroma on top of that fruit or underneath that fruit. So, Mark, my apologies. The connection here might be a little choppy. So, what else do you see, guys, as we look at this wine, right? And we determine what it has going for it. It's developing, based on the swirl around the glass, a little bit of a tear that forms and then rolls relatively slowly and maintains the leg with some consistency. So there's a potential for some higher alcohol here. Jan, my deeper voice, I've had a little bit of a head cold the last couple days. Not COVID, but a head cold. And that sort of just settled into my throat. And I now have a deeper register. So that's the deeper voice. it's higher today than it was yesterday. Yesterday was way down here, and so I have a radio voice this evening, and I've been told before I have a face for radio too. So Ariel, I agree. It's got a lot of legs, and they stay consistent. So a potential for some higher alcohol, maybe a warmer climate, maybe, um, but just maybe a full expression, a very dry wine that has um, some ripeness to it. So, Jan, you're too kind. Thank you, thank you. Um, so yes, we have this wonderful lighter red in appearance, but it has legs and structure potentially, and it has from the nose side of things. What do you smell, guys? It has that light tobacco element. It has this kind of a slight cherry note, right? There's a little bit of fruit, but then it almost immediately, like you blow past the fruit quickly and go into this tobacco element. You go into this. It has this smell for me that's reminiscent of a couple of things. I used to have guinea pigs when I was a kid, and we would put alfalfa pellets in the guinea pig's cage, and it smells like the powdery residue that would get on your fingers after handling that alfalfa. We also took this like super green supplement when we were kids, and it had that kind of green, grassy kind of grassy's not the right word, but more alfalfa kind of an herbal greenness that is dried, a dried kind of green aroma. And then there's also this sort of slight licorice root profile to it. Ariel's picking up the red fruit. There's a meatiness coming through too now. Hmm. So with this description right off the bat, right, we're talking about a little bit of red fruit, some earthen elements, some tobacco elements. Christian's picking up a bit of chalky stone, an herbaceous element, a lighter profile and the color, and then maybe some structure and power by way of the legs, tiers. What varietals should we be considering, and which ones can we easily rule out? So on the spectrum of wines, are we on the lighter side of wines? Are we on the more robust side of wines? The color would indicate that we're on the lighter side, a grape with thinner skins, or at least minimal contact with those skins. Um, Perhaps a chalkier soil for the chalk stone kind of profile that's coming through, a more mineral driven soil as opposed to a clay or deeper, richer soil. Um, as a result, we should be considering things like Grenache, right? Something like Gamay, something like Pinot Noir, something with the potential to have kind of a lightness to it, color wise, and perhaps even a higher alcohol. But as Jan's just pointing out, right, not a Zin. So not a Zinfandel, not a Petit Verdot, not a Cabernet Sauvignon, not something with a lot of power and structure and a lot of pigment in the skin to taint the actual wine itself and to create a deeper color. So that gives us a great sense, right? Yeah, Ariel, there you go. So Gamay, Pinot Noir. Petit Verdot, I don't know. I think we would get more purple elements and a little bit more power from the Petit Verdot. But I agree with you, the Gamay and the Pinot Noir for sure. But let's see as we taste it. There might be some signature tells for that. Hmm. Hmm. Wow. Hmm. Kristen, yeah. Pinot Noir is kind of where I went first. And I think it's going to be hard for me to not stay with Pinot Noir. But based on that first taste, what do you get? It's dry. Where's the acidity at? Low, medium, high? Is it milk acidity? Is it orange acidity? Is it lime acidity? Kind of variations in acidity. Where's the palate? Where's the robustness quality, the quality of this wine, the richness of this? Is this a light bodied wine, a medium bodied wine, a heavy wine? Is it skim milk, 2% milk, whole milk? This is sort of on the skim side of things. And Kristen, it's interesting you say that spicy. It is, and I think a little bit of that spice is maybe alcohol on the back end of this. This is a little bit warm on the finish. And that comes back to what we were noting about the legs and the tears. There's a potential for some higher alcohol here. As you say, spicy, that's what it kind of referenced for me, the alcohol, but were you also picking up sort of spices, as in kind of baking spices, things that would might indicate oak? Or were you finding sort of a spiced profile like jalapeno, some kind of spiced pepper? Or black pepper, for example, could be spicy too, and that could all take us in certain directions. Hmm. Wow. It has a little bit of tannin, right? So I think this is medium kind of acidity. It's not ripping acidity, but it's got a fair amount right underneath your tongue right now. Makes you salivate and continue to salivate. I think it has a moderate level of tannin, not not aggressive in any way. It's medium minus, right? And yeah, Jan, I get the warmth from the back of the throat. There's a heat. There's a little alcohol here. So maybe this is like 14% alcohol, 13.5, which is maybe an indicator, right, that we're not in a cool place. So say, for example, we're taking Pinot Noir, as some of us have thought about that varietal, and we're thinking about where it might come from. It's not going to come from necessarily a cool place. We think we might be getting a little bit more ripeness. And maybe they're using a little whole cluster preparation so that you get some of this herbaceous element, some of this green chilies that Kristen's just noting. So she might be biased. But nevertheless, like a pepper element, there's that alfalfa element, there's this almost astringent quality, a drying sensation that occurs on the back of the palate. Yeah, and it yet there are some tannins, and so there's some sunshine on this wine, or in these grape, and they're getting formed, and they're there, they're fine, as Robert's calling them, and I agree with you there. They're not sharp, they're not aggressive, but they are present, and they're not. It's not. This is not simply just wine without tannin. It's kind of just grape juice with alcohol in it. This has a little bit of texture to it, and some intrigue. It's developing a little bit more fruit, and it's kind of medicinal fruit. Hmm. Mark, you're saying what alcohol do you see on the edges beyond the legs alone? So when you look at the edge of a grape or of the wine itself as you tilt the glass, there's oftentimes a little variation in the rim, and that rim variation creates a little bit of a watery meniscus, and that watery meniscus often indicates a bit of alcohol, and that alcohol is something that um, you might see then in the formation of the tears in the legs, and also in the profile of the wine then on the palate, and as you're picking up some of that heat. And that green pepper, Jan, it's a good call. We should consider Cabernet Franc. There is always a pyrazine potential element from anything Cabernet, or anything Sauvignon, I should say, too. So Cabernet Franc, Cabernet Sauvignon, Sauvignon Blanc all present pyrazine elements potentially, depending on their ripeness and how they're farmed and then processed. But so Cabernet Franc we should consider. Absolutely, we could have a light Cabernet Franc in this case. Um, a very light Cabernet Franc. Kristen's giving you a backup on that, which is good. So Pinot Noir, Gamay, Cabernet Franc, all things we're considering at this point. Cool. Okay, so what are you tasting as you taste this wine? What are the elements that you're picking up on? Do they match what we tasted, or what we smelled rather? The aromas, or are you getting something different? This is more savory, isn't it, than it is sweet, certainly, and it's a dry wine. And so when I say sweet, I don't mean to mislead you that way. I mean the fruit presentation of this wine isn't one of sweet fruit. It's one of um, even the fruit itself has a little bit more medicinal herbal quality to it. Think of kind of cough syrup. There's a quality to that is fruity, but there's also that botanical herbaceousness. It is smooth just up to the finish, and I think we've noted on that. It's not rough on the finish by any means, so it's not contrasting the smooth that way, but it is a little warm, and the complete kind of elegance of the wine just finishes a touch hot, and that's an indication for me of a bit of alcohol. But I think this wine delivers quite a great deal of punch, of intrigue. There's a lot of flavor going on in this particular wine, especially for 25 bucks. And if this is Pinot Noir, that's one of the things I always think about in the context of blind tasting. If I do know the price, it's difficult to find Pinot Noir that's made well for $25. Um, Certainly from a place. So you can find a much larger bulk, kind of broad spectrum kind of Pinot Noir. Maybe they're pulling from all of Sonoma instead of one particular appellation in Sonoma. But let's talk about Cabernet Franc, let's talk about Gamay, let's talk about Pinot Noir and try to figure out where we might look for these particular varietals and where this wine's profile would match those places. And so from Gamay, we're talking about Gamay that could be in Oregon, some in California. We could find some maybe in New York, and we could find it, of course, in France, in Beaujolais. Um, Other than that, you could find it in a few other places for sure, but I don't know that we'd be tasting it in this context here. Um, from Cabernet Franc, we could be tasting that in the Loire Valley in France, of course, tasting it in Washington, Oregon, and in California. You can also do a great job of it, of course, in our home state of Virginia. Billy, good evening to you, sir. It's nice to see you here too. Um, Cheers, sir. Billy represents a great deal of wonderful wine from France, principally, and has brought a number of great wines to us at the restaurant. So look forward to touching base with you in the new year and checking out what you're up to, sir. Um, but this wine has, from a Cabernet Franc standpoint, right, it would, as we noted, a lighter one. So if we're in Loire Valley, for example, you have something like Chinon, a famous place where Cabernet Franc comes from, and it has a little more concentration. It would get some of that herbaceousness, but Chinon vis-a-vis, or in contrast to, say, just a basic Touraine, a larger appellation, not quite as specific, maybe a couple of different soil types going into it, a wine that would be picked and wouldn't have the same concentration, so you get a little bit of lighter presentation. Um, we've featured the wines of Leah Jorgensen for recently in a couple of tastings at the restaurant, both on the present menu as a pairing and also in our fall wine buying event. She's in the southern part of Oregon and she's making interesting Cabernet Franc there. So this could be a potential for, say, an Oregonian Cabernet Franc. Um, there's also the potential, of course, to produce Cabernet Franc like this in Virginia. Most of them have a little more texture and concentration, but you find Cabernet Franc more on the Shenandoah side of things. That has a little bit lighter presentation thanks to limestone over there, or some of them up in kind of the Leesburg area, the Loudoun County area, have a little bit more lightness. But um, I don't know. There's a quality to this herbaceousness here that's not the same as what I pick up typically in Cabernet Franc, and I associate this though more with Pinot Noir and with, but I think with a whole cluster. So you get some of this sometimes in Syrah, you get sometimes this in the in Grenache, you get sometimes this because of a production method. And when I say whole cluster, what I mean is that the actual whole cluster of grapes, so the grape bunch, is on the stem, on the pips and seed. You know, all of that is one. And normally those grapes are removed before they're pressed. But in some cases, when you hear 25%, 50%, 75%, or 100% whole cluster press, they're pressing it on the stems. And that means you get some of that kind of astringency, that herbal element being pressed with the stem. That stem, if you think about, if you ever had a table grape and you just chewed on the actual stem that the grape was on, it's not a super pleasant taste. It has an astringency to it. It's chewing on a plant. Um, and you get then some of these kind of woodish elements, but they're more herbal. They're more vegetative, right? And so I think that's what you're tasting in this particular wine a little bit, and you can get that in Pinot Noir, and that also lightens the experience because you don't then want to soak the juice on that too much because you'll get too much astringency. So you don't concentrate the juice with the skin contact as much in a press like that. So you get a lighter presentation. Kristen, to your question about wood, I'm not getting a lot, not a ton. Um, I don't think this is another indication, perhaps too, that where you get a Pinot Noir which has lower yields and is more difficult to farm, doesn't grow in as many places as easily. Putting a bunch of new oak on it, you'd also raise the price. So it would also add, I think, a little bit more density to the wine. So if this is Pinot Noir, I'm pretty confident in saying we're talking about neutral oak, larger vessels. I don't know that it's stainless steel per se, but it's not necessarily one that has a great deal of oak signature. It's not meant to. Most of you sound like, well, Jan and Kristen are back off of Pinot Noir, and the pepper is sort of subsiding a little bit. Yeah, yep, I agree. We're at the witching point of the wine where it's time to pour a touch more and to see if it's changed. And you think it's Virginia? You and John think Virginia, like Virginia Cabernet Franc or something else from Virginia? That'd be pretty dang cool if it was. Um, I'd be very excited to know this wine is from Virginia. I don't know of many places that produce Pinot Noir in Virginia other than Keto Ridge, and we couldn't serve that to you for 25 bucks a bottle, as it is more than that at our cost, and we haven't been able to get it lately. So I'd like to see it again. It could be a lighter Cabernet Franc, and that would be awesome if this was a presentation that way. But I'm headed back toward the Pinot camp, and my question then is, where are we going to look for Pinot Noir? Um, a little bit of smoke coming out of it for Robert too, and that might take us to the West Coast in particular. So for sure, the West Coast of California, right? We can be talking about it all the way from sort of the Central Coast up through Mendocino in terms of California presentation, and go further up, of course, into the Willamette Valley and talk about a general Willamette Valley presentation of Pinot Noir. We could then bounce here in Virginia. You can certainly find a little bit of great quality, and then go abroad to Burgundy. No doubt about the opportunity to taste Pinot Noir from there. Sancerre has some, of course. We have a beautiful one on the list. Thank you to Olivier Dobress. And then going from there to Germany, Austria. You can find Pinot Noir there, northern Italy. And then interesting, right? Pinot Noir coming from New Zealand and from Australia, Mornington Peninsula. There's some beautiful wines there. This is sort of reminiscent a little bit of sort of a New Zealand Pinot Noir. It has that herbaceous element and that whole cluster quality to it. It's pretty cool. Um, I want to know if we could find one at this price point for there. That's really great. So we could go South America for sure, and there's Pinot Noir grown there. We have a beautiful one from Patagonia, which we've tasted before, Bodegas Chakra, right? That would be fun too. That one has a little bit more meatiness to it, a little bit weightier quality, and this one's not presenting that. So I like the Austria or Germany kind of call here. We've poured by the glass, for example, the Anton Bauer Pinot Noir from Germany before, and that's lovely. It has a little bit of a similarity to this wine, for sure. Um, mhm. I thought initially, because I had a little bit of that licorice note, some of that licorice root. If you've ever had a chance to try licorice root or smell it, it doesn't play like the candy licorice you get. It's a little bit like the aroma of black licorice, but it has a more woody character to it. I picked that up first. That was the note I was referring to when I first opened the chat. That was kind of suggesting to me I should be considering Oregon Pinot Noir. It's taking me a little bit further away from there, so I might head more toward New Zealand with this. Um, Although, as I say that, I have to reconcile then the warmth. We were talking about the potential alcohol that's there and some of the legs and the tearing that we saw that were a bit warmer, a bit hotter, I should say, and the tiny bit of a watery, meniscus. And if you're heading into New Zealand, certainly if you're heading to the South Island, you're talking about some of the coolest climates in the country, in the world, excuse me, for growing Pinot Noir. And so maybe I'm back to Germany. Hmm. Jan, you're California for Pinot Noir. Kristen, you're Austria. I like that too. Um, yeah, I think I'm centering around. I don't think this is Gamay. I don't think this is from Beaujolais. Um, I've been wrong before, of course. I don't know that this is Cabernet Franc. I think there are elements that we are all right, and you are very right to suggest that we would be looking at Cabernet Franc here. But I think this takes us back to Pinot Noir. So for me, I think this is Pinot Noir, and I think this is from a non-traditional place, i.e., not Burgundy. I don't think this is from the United States. If it is, it's going to be um, from the Willamette Valley from Oregon. But I think I'm going to go German Pinot Noir from Burgenland, kind of broad appellation. Yeah, and it's young. It's not terribly old. So 2019. Um, so 2019, 2018, 2019 probably. Pinot Noir from Germany. Anybody else want to differ? Go somewhere else. Put your flag in the sand. Jan, you're going to stay California. Kristen, you're going to stay Austria. McCarty's, you still in Virginia? As we start to look toward what this wine will be. I find it enjoyable, I tell you that. Austrian Pinot Noir, 2019. Kristen, you're on the board. Very good. Kristen, Johnny, good. It's a screw cap. Let's see if we're going to tell right now if Christian's correct. Oh, you are. Just by that. This is an Austrian Pinot Noir, or this is an Austrian wine. Just by that capsule, that tells you that it's Austria. So, okay. Yep. It's Leo Hellinger's. I'm sorry, my light's not very good. But Leo Hellinger's Pinot Noir from Burgenland. And I misspoke just a moment ago saying Burgenland and Germany, but that's great. Where does the vintage? 2017. So it has a little bit of age. And importantly, what is the alcohol? 13%. So it presents a little bit higher alcohol. But this is a really tasty little Pinot Noir from Leo Hellinger. We have a number of their other wines. He makes some really cool blends called Hillside and Hill One, and that are Zweigelt and Saint Laurent and Merlot, things of that sort, kind of blended together with Austrian varietals, and really a neat wine. Cool. That's fun. Very fun. That's awesome. Well, cheers to getting to drink Pinot Noir, which I guess if pressed on the red side of things would be my favorite varietal. I had occasion to taste once with Fred Dame, the master sommelier, and he said all roads lead to Pinot Noir. You drink wine long enough, and you'll want to drink Pinot Noir at the end of the day. And that's certainly our case here for this year as we end this year's sequence of these events, these mystery wine blind tastings with Pinot Noir. And I say cheers to all of you for participating in these and for making this a really special experience for me. Getting a chance to join you each Thursday night to taste wine and to form bonds and relationships has been very special this year. And over the past plus year, as we have found a way to connect with wine. As I've said a couple of times, our mission at Field and Main is to use food and drink to foster community and to build connections. And wine has the power to do that. And we've proven that you don't even have to be in the same room. But when you're sharing wine and sharing a wine experience, those relationships develop. And I've watched all of you find further connection with each other via this experience. And it's been deeply meaningful to see that happen. So thank you. Ariel, yes, thank you to you. Happy holidays. I feel better soon. I'm feeling much better. I have a glass of Pinot Noir and I'm on the mend. Merry Christmas to everybody. Have a wonderful series of holidays. If you get a chance to visit us, I look forward to seeing you there at the restaurant. If not, be safe and have a wonderful celebration with family and loved ones. Hold them close. It's important. Share some wine, share some food with them, and we'll connect again in the new year. Cheers, everybody. Until then, be well.